Welcome to this session on Mission Control Project Management with an Agile approach. My name is Trevor Doornbos. I'll be your host for the next 45 minutes, and I'll be taking you through an overview of Mission Control and touching on areas of Agile Project Management with Mission Control. And rather than a deep dive into the specific functionality, this will be like a trailer of the movie. So it's going to be quite fast-paced. If you do have any questions, there's a Q&A chat window available on your toolbar. Please feel free to ask questions. We'll most probably park those till the end of the session. I'll go through those questions unless it's relevant exactly to where we are in the session. I can take the time. So I've been with Aprika for 3 years. I've been working in the Salesforce ecosystem for 9 years. And the session today, we're going to start with why Mission Control, the evolution of where it came from, who's actually using it, and we'll get into an overview of Mission Control, as well as that Agile approach in that solution walkthrough. So if we start with the why Mission Control, well, first of all, it's native to Salesforce. It's built natively on the Salesforce platform, so it's connected at the platform layer, at that API layer. It does actually work out of the box, and what that means is you can install it from Salesforce App Exchange into a Salesforce org, and the fully fledged Mission Control application is available for use within a matter of minutes once you actually install it. There's no integration required because it's actually installed inside Salesforce, leveraging all that security and platform capability. And from installing, it's then just a matter of configuring it to your use and your use cases. There's a lot of online collateral available, online documentation, user guide, knowledge base, support, live chat, all sorts of webinar recordings, training videos, a learning portal, which we'll touch on. And our support is global. We're headquartered in Australia, and we have our customer success team here, as well as in North America. So pretty close to follow the sun support. And what's the value of Mission Control? So what is the return on investment that Mission Control customers have been finding with the solution? Well, we had an independent consulting company go and interview a number of Mission Control customers. And last year they came back with the business and economic impact report. And you can download that from our website. We can share that with you if you'd like to have it sent to you directly. And some of the results from that were quite phenomenal, not just increases in utilization and productivity, but increases in profitability and bottom line. So all the things that make it really valuable to have that solution in place. Talking about native on Salesforce, so some of the questions we often get asked around, well, what licenses do you support? Is Mission Control an OEM solution? In other words, does it include the Salesforce licenses? And no, it doesn't include the Salesforce licenses because you may already have Salesforce and you can leverage the licenses you're using already. And you can also work directly with your Salesforce account executive to get the best possible deal on the Salesforce licensing. Everything from platform and community license and up. And the real benefit of being on Salesforce is you've got access to all that Salesforce capability, being able to create custom fields, amend the page layouts in Mission Control, adding validation rules, workflow rules, using Flow Builder and having triggers. And those added benefits, as we see as we go through, is being able to leverage Salesforce reports and dashboards, but for the Mission Control objects and fields. If you need access from mobile, we leverage the Salesforce One mobile app. Talk about no integration required, like to sort of emphasize that point because it is built natively and installed in your Salesforce instance. And you can download it today from Salesforce App Exchange. And the great thing is managing it and administering Mission Control is familiar if you're using Salesforce. You're not having to learn a brand new solution from an administration perspective. And we'll even support, if you've still got those old classic interfaces. Quick history of Mission Control, where it came from. So Aprika Business Solutions, the company, started its life as a Salesforce systems integrator, implementing Salesforce for customers. Mission Control actually started as an internal application, a few custom objects in our own Salesforce instance. And then 11 and a half years ago, that was launched on Salesforce App Exchange as a product. And in those 11 and a half years, it's grown into what we would call a full-fledged professional services automation solution. We're supporting customers all over the world, which is why we have that global sort of presence through Australia, through North America, over 25 countries with clients and over 12,000 end users. And that's ranging from all manner of clients. And some people say, well, what sort of company would use Mission Control? Well, it's not just pure play professional services companies, although that is an extremely good fit. We've got companies across industries, a number of construction clients, financial services, insurance companies, software companies, such as ourselves. Our development team actually utilizes Mission Control and an agile approach to program development to actually manage and release our 3 releases a year. And that's really across the board. If we have a look at the quick logo view of the top 49, if you like, and we've got a number of customers on there ranging from Australia-based, European-based, North America-based, and everything from software companies to, well, you name it. What is in Mission Control? Well, if you're new to Mission Control, I want to give you a quick overview. We'll be covering a bit on that. So we're not going to cover all aspects of what I would call our feature wall slide, and this doesn't encapsulate all the capability of Mission Control, but some of the aspects that make it a very valuable professional services automation solution is it's not just project management, it's also that resource management perspective. And then being able to factor in things such as cost rates and bill rates of the people delivering the work, grouping those people into teams, building out skills matrix, so we know we get the right person with the right skill who also has availability. And there are a number of ways to assign those, and even full-fledged holiday management, whether you're managing that 100% in Mission Control with accruals and allowances, or you're integrating that in from one of your external HRMS solutions. From a project management perspective, creating a project in Mission Control can be done from a myriad of places. Very simple out-of-the-box opportunity to project creation for those using Salesforce opportunities, or any other standard or even custom object. For example, having a Salesforce case record and a trigger or selection box trigger creation of a project. And we have a number of ways our customers are using that. And if you've ever used project management tools such as Microsoft Project or other areas, being able to copy and borrow from other projects and create templates, all very, very deep set into Mission Control. And we are going to have a little bit of a focus on Agile project management today. And I do say a little bit of a focus, but the key value of Mission Control is it's flexible on how you want to manage projects. So if you've got delivery type projects that are waterfall by design, and also other projects which are agile, you can do that all within Mission Control. And choose the view that actually works best for each of you people in your teams. Whether people want to look at the Gantt charts, have a list view in the action pad, have a visual view, Kanban view in the whiteboard, being able to manage it all accessible without having to go in and out of different systems. And also being able to bring all that information that possibly today is sitting in spreadsheets and emails and other systems like risk management and issue management, and being able to do things such as project retrospectives and getting those lessons learned and that side of things. And if you need that deep-seated project management, even doing things such as baseline tracking. Obviously, any good project management solution needs to have time tracking. There's a number of ways we can do that in Mission Control, whether people are using a standalone timesheet or tracking from the Kanban board or even from the Gantt chart. There's a number of ways people can track time based on what's more convenient to them. Do they log time as they go? Do they use the timer? Do they do it at the end of the day or at the end of the week? And they're also tracking things such as financials, so even bringing in expenses, invoices, but being able to generate those invoices that are going to go out to the end client, and then leveraging the strength of the Salesforce API platform to integrate that into your finance system, whether that's configured yourself or use one of the plugin apps that actually do that great interface. And then what we'll be touching on a bit today is around the program management side of things, which is more the agile approach. So we'll be touching on the program planner, the project builder, the storyboard, and a couple of other areas if time allows. But certainly, like I said at the beginning, this is really a trailer for the movie, and there's a lot of depth we could go to in each of the specific areas. And the areas I do want to touch on in today's session are things such as the program planner. And we'll touch on this. And if you're doing an agile-based approach where you're actually collecting requirements and you're building out user stories and you want to get quite granular, have sub-levels to those user stories, things such as project checklist items, that's all doable from multiple places, but especially within the program planner. And certainly our development team uses the program planner to manage our 3 releases a year. So we see what requirements, what features are going to go into each release, and what can be completed or what needs to get pushed out to a future release. So using that full sort of agile approach. Other aspects we'll be touching on is the project builder. So we'll be looking at a couple of views of agile sprints within a project. Firstly, I'll be looking at the standard, if you like, project view to a sprint, but also touching on the project builder, how that's a way for people who focus on things such as matching requirements into the right parts of the project. And then also the storyboard. So actually building out those requirements and the user stories that go into creating those requirements. And this is going to be the flow that we're going to be looking at. So we'll be going through and looking at from various personas. I will be logging on once as a project team member, Alana Blanchard, really just to show the way you can actually use the Salesforce permissions and profiles and all that capability to limit the access to your team members or any specific people to what they can see, what they can do. So let's flip across into my Salesforce org. And for those who have not used or seen Mission Control before, I've got Salesforce, I've installed Mission Control into it, and I've configured the look and feel the way I want it to be. And I'm an admin. So in some aspects of this session, I will have access to absolutely everything in the system. For those familiar with Salesforce, you'll notice at the top left, the app launcher. We're in the full Mission Control app. And it could be, you might be using Experience Cloud or Community. So you can actually set up community access. So if you want your partners or customers to access project information, you can actually give them access through Community. And we'll also be looking at a team member view later on. So where you may start your journey with Mission Control is in the Mission Control console. And this is a collection of wizards for various aspects of Mission Control. Launch pad where we're actually creating things. So a role in Mission Control is where we're assigning a piece of work, an action to. That could be a person who's got access to Mission Control. It could be a client who only has a contact record in Salesforce. We could still set them up as a role. It could be an asset, such as a meeting room or a piece of equipment. It could even be a placeholder role, which we'll talk to. You can group those roles into teams, geographically by capability. For example, someone could be in the consulting team and they're also Asia Pacific based, or someone else who's actually California based. Then building out a skills matrix and assigning those to people as they develop their skills. So when you're searching for people, you'll get not just the person with the right skill, you'll be able to check their availability. The progress pad, and that's where we progress actions on a project. We'll be going into the Kanban board, we'll be going into the action pad, we'll be going into the timesheet, and we'll touch on the issue and the risk log. And there's a number of other areas where you can actually contribute to projects to help the progress. And then we'll be going in later to a deep dive, and we'll be looking at the program planner and the storyboard and the project builder. And there's other aspects we probably won't touch on today, unless, of course, I speak super fast and we're able to get through them all. Lastly, in case anyone's wondering, the control pad is where your Mission Control administrator will update all the central settings across the org. And one of the features I really love to show here for people who are looking at trialing Mission Control is if you do download Mission Control into a Salesforce org and you want to test it without having to configure data, we've got this great little feature called the Create Sample Data button, and it'll create a couple of projects and people, and you can actually get going in a matter of minutes. So where might you start your day? Could be, and we talked about at the earlier, at least I talked about earlier, about leveraging Salesforce and things such as Salesforce reports and dashboards. So depending on how you want to slice and dice, you can create as many dashboards as you like. There's about 50 mission control Salesforce reports. So Salesforce reports using mission control objects out of the box. And of course, a number of ways you can configure those. So if you're looking at tracking things such as the margin, if you've got milestone delivery, if you want to see your project revenue by month based on when delivery is about to happen, sort of things that I find a lot of customers are struggling with, that they don't know the financial status of a project or a team until month end. Whereas with mission control, as you're tracking data like login time, login expenses to your projects, you get that real-time view of what's happening. It's not just from a revenue, but also from a cost perspective, and we'll touch on that in a short while. And one of the key aspects you're probably looking at, how many hours do we have left on our projects? So being able to click through from a dashboard straight through to a report, see all the projects you care about, obviously filtered to your access. So, with permission sets, filters, profiles, what have you, in Salesforce, you can limit access to the data that you want people to see. We'll be touching on this project as we go through our implementation services development project, and we can see the project budget. So what came from the opportunity in this case, how many billable dollars we've actually delivered to date, the hours scheduled, billable, and what's remaining. So real-time access. And if I click through into the project, and we'll be coming back to this one, I've got a lot of data to go into, and one of those is the Insights tab. So again, any metric that you're collecting and you can view in Mission Control, can build into a report and dashboard. I can see straight away from this project that the cost performance is on track. We're on one is good in relating to the cost performance index and schedule performance index, and that's why it's still at green. Schedule appears to be running a little bit late, so it's actually fallen below one. It's gone from green to amber to red, and I can drill into that later. I can see the burn down of time based on time logs. So we've got a risk and an issue on the project, and I can see the billable value of the hours delivered to date, the hours delivered and what's remaining. There's no purchase orders or expenses on this project as yet, and I can see the margin, the profit and loss, as well as looking like someone's actually overpaid an invoice. Well, that's my error. We'll come back to this project and look at that in a bit more detail. So one of the things you might also look at is, well, that's great. I can manage my projects, but what about knowing people's availability? And there's a few places you can do that. And specifically, maybe at a holistic level, and say, look, I want an overall view of my key team. There's filters all the way through Mission Control. And I can see straight off from this week till the end of December, Alana looks overutilized. And I can see the other people sort of fetching between medium to quite available. I can see the actions where people are assigned to in blue, and any vacation time, annual leave, in orange. And there's that red line, which is the capacity. So we've still got some white space there, but individually, Alana, not so much. And I can look at the planner view. I can break that down. I could be doing this every week and look at a daily view. Maybe I'll look at months ahead, and I can see what people's commitments are looking like. It looks like Alana's pretty much over-resourced for next week and the following week. And I can see what sort of impact is in there. So is it billable time? We see she's got some holiday off here. She's got a couple of days off over at the end of the year. And we can see the project she's actually working on and where those hours hit. So extremely powerful. Other ways you may be looking at overall is, maybe I want to see a group of my projects. Now, other than we'll be showing you the program planner, maybe I want to use the Gantt Anywhere feature of Mission Control, whereas Gantt chart's available under every project and also standalone, or even added under other objects as you need. So I can very quickly see the progress of my reports and my projects, and I can go and have a look at the structure. So let's just hit refresh again. Let me just quickly come back to that. So if I have a look at my roadshow implementation, that's a typical waterfall style project where we've got our dependencies and milestones and actions and different priorities. And then the project we'll be touching on is implementation services development project. I can actually see the sprints in play. So there's sprint 1, there's sprint 2 in progress. It looks like we're actually on track by the progress bars. I can see the milestone deadlines for each of my sprints. And I can see sprint 3's got a couple of actions assigned already, and our backlog's got a couple sitting there. So I haven't even had to go into the project to see the status of that. I can see who's assigned. I can also see what's happening coming up. So I can see from Alana's perspective, she's actually got time off this week. It looks like that could be an impact, but we might have averted that. We'll see that when we get more detail. Let's go to how that project started. So in my example, this project actually started from a Salesforce opportunity. As I mentioned earlier, this could be generated from pretty much anywhere. You could have a trigger, a setting, a flow to create a project from a template based on conditions met. Maybe you have a request form that comes internally or from the customer, either from your website or from community or experience cloud. In this example, I've got a sprint template project that I used, and we set a start date for last week, was closed, won, and then simply by having this tick box marked to true, it actually generated that project from the template, aligned it to the start date, and created the project we can see under our related list. If I go back into the project that we looked at before, my personal preference when I come in, I'm logging in as an admin. I've got everything switched on. So if there's any key fields you want to see in your project ribbon at the top, part of that configurability with Salesforce, you can add whatever fields, whether they're standard, custom fields, to track your project. Maybe you want to see hours remaining, hours delivered. The milestone progress ribbon, again, you can switch that on, switch that off in a page layout, as well as seeing other aspects of the project. So under my overview, my default view when I come in is to see the work breakdown structure. And under the work breakdown structure, I've got my milestones. And I can see under my backlog, I've got 3 actions there. Under my first sprint, I can see the actions. I can see they're completed. I can see the hours scheduled and the hours logged. So good news, our estimates and actuals matched. I can see that's actually 100% complete. And that means the milestone's also 100% complete. And I can see what's remaining for sprint 2. That's in progress. And sprint 3 is planned. And if I need to, I can bring information out of backlog and assign that to the relevant place. Now, maybe you want to manage this from within my project. Now, one great way of doing that is in the Kanban view in the whiteboard. So if I go into the whiteboard, and I'll be showing you, actually, so I remember, I'm going to actually do that as a standalone view as well. Under the whiteboard, you can actually work on those actions. So we're always going to have the project, the milestone, the action, and the unique number. And then the other fields available, they're very configurable. So in my example, I've got start and end date, hour schedule completed, and then any requirements. I know this project example, I don't have any requirements or user stories built out, and we'll touch on that shortly. So to actually assign the work, so if I'm looking at this work, say, well, sprint 1's actually completed. I don't have anything priority backlog, so I might just hide those columns for now, and let's focus on what we're working on. I can see the progress of my individual actions here. I can expand and contract either all of the actions or individually. I can see who's actually working on it. So we've got Lana over here, we've got Kelly Slater, and I can see in sprint 3, I've actually got a couple of actions. I haven't actually assigned anyone to those yet. So what I might just do is I'm going to put those to Kelly as well. It's going to drag that resource over to Kelly. And we see that's been assigned. Now, how did I know to do that? Well, we've also got the capability of having a role forecast. So when you're actually allocating the project from the opportunity, you can say, well, who am I going to allocate to this project? So even before the project starts, you can actually figure out your resourcing and use that for forecasting purposes. And then from things such as role allocations, you can see how much time's been scheduled by individual and how many hours actually completed. So a lot of good information. Now, remember, you can switch on, switch off the things, or maybe you do or don't need. So from this aspect, if I wanted to actually then move one of my sprints, one of my actions, you know what, I'm going to move that into sprint 3. And yeah, I'd also like to assign that to Kelly. It's very easy to do that, very quick. While we're in this view, I can also look at other ways of viewing my actions. So the actions, one way is to look at it by status. So as people are working, I can see what's coming up, what's complete, and what we're actually working on right now. So being able to give you that granular view without having to leave the system. It's got it all in one place. And I'll go next and show you the standalone whiteboard. But one of the aspects I did want to touch on is we've finished, as I talked to just before, we have finished sprint 1. That's all completed. Go back to the work breakdown structure and you say, well, what's the impact of that? Well, sprint 1 was complete. Now, we could have done this time and materials. We chose to deliver it as a fixed fee project. So we actually had a fixed fee against each of our milestones, each of our sprints. So at the completion of this sprint, we actually automatically created a billing event. And that's where that billing events come in. It's based on the completion. There was a GST component, and that's been lodged. If you want to then integrate that leveraging Salesforce API in an integration app, you can push that information into your finance system, and when it's paid, marketers come back. Now, it looks like the client, instead of paying $6,500, has paid a lot more. So we can actually work on that and do credits and that side of things. So it gives you that visual representation all in that central place. Other aspect is looking at that from a standalone whiteboard perspective. So you might say, okay, let's have a look at a sprint project. And let's have a look at that by milestone. So I could actually focus on looking at that whole project in a much larger screen. It does also give me the capability to quickly swap between projects. Maybe I just remove the filter. I can see everything that's been worked on. I could filter that down to this week, this month, certain divisions. And while I'm in an individual project view, I can look at that by milestone. While we're still in this project, what about getting that information out to your end client? Well, one great way is that project status report, out-of-the-box capability of mission control. Maybe you just give them a project summary of where things are up to. Look, sprint 1's 100% complete. We're on track with all deliverables being met. There was an issue and a risk. We can see the hours that were logged last week. And I've provided just at the milestone level where things are up to, so they can see, oh, okay, don't have to guess, they've got that information. Include a Gantt chart view so they can see that. And in my example, I've included a time log summary of all the hours that have been logged, including any issues, any risks. And before we jump into the other aspects, what about that end user view? So promise to have a look at that from Alana's perspective. And Alana, who's been assigned to this project, I'm just going to go in. I'm an admin logging in as Alana. Let's just have a look at her view. We'll set up her profile as a team member, so she can still access some aspects of this, but she might be looking at things such as the action pad, where she can focus just on what she's working with and what's due this month. So you can see those items, what's on hold, what's on progress, what's planned, all the things complete have come off there. She can see the hours she's got allocated. So if she's logging time, she can log time from the pop-up window here. It's one of the many places you can log time. You can enforce rules around that. If you need to have any information, make notes on whether that's going to the client or not, and mark things off as complete. Or looking at things from the Kanban view. So similarly there, as we said before, we're looking at our specific project that she's working on, and we can swap that into a milestone view. So she's got a good perspective of things that she needs to do, things she needs to complete. And she can also do her timesheet standalone. Maybe she doesn't log that time as she goes, and she wants to see what's happening. So she can see all her allocations. So it looks like she did a great job. She's actually off today, which is the day I'm doing the demo. but she's already logged the time. She's even got that holiday time and her non-working days for the weekend. And she could actually add more information in there as needed. So let's log out as Alana and let's take a quick look at what people probably joined us for, is to get that taste of Agile project management other than the Kanban view that we're talking about. And where you could start that journey could be from the mission control console. So in the mission control console, on the management pad, you've got a few aspects. We'll be looking at the program planner, the project builder, and the storyboard. So if we talk to the project planner, I'm just going to open that up, a new tab. And I've already focused on, I've got a program, my ACE program, and then all the projects that are related to that program will show in that program planner. Now, the benefits of this is being able to capture things such as requirements and user stories. Now, we'll notice on some of the other projects, including the one we just looked at, didn't actually encapsulate those, but certainly this sprint project did. And we can see we've got those requirements, and under here we can see icons saying they've actually got user stories apportioned to them. From here, we can drill into the project overview. That's where we just were in our previous project. And we can also go straight from there into the project builder. Now, so I'm not jumping between screens. What I like to do is actually, maybe you just go straight to the project builder. So if I look at the mission control console, under the project builder, I want to go to a specific project. So I'm going to go to my ACE sprint project. Now, if I jump into the project builder, it gives me a sprint and backlog specific approach. So we can still go back into the program planner from here. We can go into the overview of the deep dive into the project. And what's really useful about this is being able to capture those requirements. So, okay, it looks like, yeah, we want to add that requirement into backlog, create that as an action. Now, sometimes, and I've just taken the default setting I have here of converting requirements into actions, you can convert those into milestones as well. Quick question, what's the difference between a program and a project? So really good question. So a program is essentially a collection of projects. So a program could be a number of projects. We go back into the program planner. An example we've got in another demo system is where we have releases. So for mission control, you might have December release, you might have the May release, you might have September release, and then you've got all the requirements that are in backlog and priority backlog, and you can drag those between each release. So each of our releases is a separate project and has a number of requirements and user stories that feed that information. So yeah, great question, great question. So from here, we had our requirement. I just dragged that here to create it into backlog effort. And if I need to, I can just bring these items into my various sprints. And we can work on them from here. And then I can go into the actual project itself. So very powerful. Gives you that ability to swap between views of aspects of managing projects. And I like personally to do that within separate tabs. So I can say, I want to look at the project builder perspective now. Let's go back into the overview. So it just gives us a way of actually capturing that. If we were extending the project, maybe we wanted to add, sprint 3. And I'll just take that by default. I'll make myself the owner. And I might just drag that requirement into sprint 3. So it's very, very flexible, very easy. If I don't have a requirement, I want to add an action, I could just call this testing and go through and actually resource that and put more detail into it later. So there's multiple ways of doing that. You're not restricted to having user stories that feed into requirements, that feed into actions within projects. And if you do have a bunch of user stories, you can actually use the storyboard to actually reparent those user stories. So sometimes you might say, hey, I've got 3 user stories that are very similar, we're going to develop those in a similar cycle. So if I, as I mentioned, storyboard, I'm just going to go back into the management pad on the console. I'm going to look at that ACE program again from a storyboard perspective. Okay, and here I've actually got a bunch of requirements. So I've got different requirements. We want to work on the Gantt chart, whiteboard filters, rate cards, create and share filters, and other areas. And then I've got the user stories underneath those. So user stories being your typical things such as, for my example, this is actually a feature we've already brought into Mission Control, is the ability not just to create filters, but to share them with other people. So as a project manager, I want to create filters for my projects so I can share them with the team. And you can put all the criteria you would normally put into a user story. Being a page layout, any of the page layouts in Mission Control, you can add your own custom fields, you can amend the page layout. And certainly happy to help share information to people on how to do that. And maybe to reparent user stories between requirements, maybe group them together as well, and add stories on the fly, add requirements on the fly. So again, separate places in my view to do that. So you actually can separate those aspects of, okay, who's got the requirement, who's building out the user stories. We're doing a workshop with the client to get all those user stories in place, and then let's collate them all and get them parented to the right requirements. I know that is a lot to cover in 45 minutes. And as I said, it was going to be a bit of a trailer of the movie from an agile approach. But certainly there's a lot more information that we can actually help you with. So if you want to get more deeper information on that program management approach, you can certainly go online. If you go to the aprika.com website under our learning portal, under resources, you can actually self-register today, right now, if you like, and do one of those fundamental courses. And that one is on program management, which covers more on understanding the program object, the program planner, the storyboard, and the project builder. Quick question online. Does the capacity planning take any weighted data from Salesforce to consolidate a forward view? Is there direct client accessibility available? Can the financial transactions flow to zero? Oh, great question. And is there an action register by project? So 4 good questions. So capacity planning, yes, probably won't have time to show it, but I did touch on the role forecast in the project level. You can actually have that come from a Salesforce opportunities. We have a forecast capability from the opportunity. So even before the opportunities won, you can actually have that forward-looking view. If I very quickly cheat a little here and go to the resource planner, I can actually say not just the actions, but also where I've got forecasts. Let's look at it here. I can see Alana's gone from 113% to 103 because to 113 because we've actually got a resource forecast that's come from the opportunity. Good question. Is there direct client accessibility available? Certainly is. You would be leveraging the Mission Control community on a Salesforce community, or it's called Experience Site or Experience Cloud. That is license control. So you will need that Salesforce community and the Mission Control licenses to do that. Can the financial transactions flow to zero? Yes, and I did touch on that in the project under the billing, how you can have an integration app, take your billing event items and actually push that into zero. We do the same ourselves. We use an app called Breadwinner. There's also other apps, TwixRiver, Zapier, which you can configure to do that zero integration or other financial zero. Action register, I didn't touch on risk logs. I'm not sure what action register is. And we can follow up on that. I can certainly follow up on that. I'm just going to take a screenshot of that question to make sure we don't miss it. And what does a best practice Mission Control rollout look like? Oh, well, I think there's a number of ways we can do that. I can share some information that's certainly on our website You'll see some information around our customer success plans. So under pricing and success plans is our typical implementations, and it outlines what's actually included. So if you have Salesforce capability internally, we can actually work with you so you can self-implement mission control. You can work with a Salesforce partner or work directly with our professional services team. But it's pretty much almost like following the bouncing ball to make sure what are the areas that are important to you, what are the aspects you need for your mission control setup. And one of the key aspects of that, which leads into my next slide, is we've got customers that are implementing, self-implementing mission control in under a month. As far as feedback from our customers, we leverage Salesforce App Exchange reviews, G2 ratings, and the response has been phenomenal to our customer success team's responsiveness and follow-up. We have very high targets for the team on their responses, which actually pretty much resulted in us winning APAC Partner of the Year awards was for our customer service, customer success. So certainly something we can leverage there. Happy to share any information on what a best practice rollout looks like as well. Next steps from here, how do we actually support you? Happy to set up calls. So if you're looking at mission control, what we start with is to get an idea of what your business is doing from a project management perspective, what those requirements look like, and then current state and future state. And from that, we can then provide a solution overview relevant to your use cases. If you want to, you can then leverage the 14-day free trial. You can do a product evaluation. We're happy to work with you on that as well and have checkpoint calls to answer any questions. And once you do become a customer, we have not just checkpoints with your account manager, but our customer success team will set up a 90-day onboarding plan just to make sure you're getting all the right information that you need. And then from an ongoing perspective, things such as our Cosmo campfires, recorded webinars such as this one, and periodic health checks to be able to look, hey, we just want to have a look at how we're using mission control. Is there something maybe we're not leveraging? And that's been really useful for some of our long-standing clients who maybe haven't been following our 3 releases a year and finding out there's actually features we've released that address some of the challenges they've been doing manually until now. Not just from web feedback, but talking to customers like brands. One of my favorite customers, I'm originally from New Zealand. They're about 10 or 15 minutes from where I grew up. And they've been using mission control now for a number of years. When they first started mission control, they had about 100 people. Everyone had information on projects on their computers. So it wasn't centralized. They moved everyone onto Salesforce and mission control and actually provided visibility across the business. And they said in the first year, half of their team are actually project owners, project managers. So for each of those 50 project managers, they were saving them 4 days every month on not having to build their monthly reports and chasing timesheets and chasing progress because everything was centralized in that one place. And then the following year, they came back and told us the increase in efficiency they got was at 30%. So by no extra spend, by not hiring any additional people will actually be able to manage a lot more work. And that sort of information is also available in our total economic impact report. At the big end of town, Fortune 100 companies like Cardinal Health. So, and a minimum user license quantity is 5 users. We've got customers such as Cardinal Health using hundreds of users. So scalability is as scalable as Salesforce. Additional resources, I've probably mentioned it 3 times, that business impact report. There's a sample from there on efficiency gains and revenue growth. Who wouldn't want to have 10% increase in revenue? And you can download that from on our website. There's a number of ebooks, the brochure of what's in mission control. And you can go to Salesforce App Exchange at any time and you can download that free trial. We don't ask for any credit card. You just download that today. If you look at the screen on the right, there's also a test drive account. So if we look on Salesforce App Exchange for Mission Control Project Management, there's an online test drive account that anyone can access through Guest or Trailblazer account, and you can have a look at Mission Control today and test it out there for yourself. Support's available for you even before you become a customer. So if you have any questions, you go to aprika.com, Mission Control Support. If they're not online in live chat, you can still log a live chat request, or you can log a support ticket, and people will get back to you very quickly. And there's a range of information available. Thank you, everyone, so much. Would love to get any feedback from the survey coming out after this to make sure that we answered all the questions. I'm happy to hang online for a few more minutes to help anyone with any questions. And last question, can we have a link to this recording to share? In the next day or two, you'll definitely be getting a recording once that's been edited to take out any bits at the beginning or end, and because I think it was a lead in of 5 or so minutes while I was logged in, and we'll certainly be sending it to everyone who are registered for the course. My email, if you'd like to contact me directly, you're more than welcome to do that, is on the screen there, firstname.lastname@aprika.com.au. Thank you all for your time. I hope that's been a useful session, and I look forward to speaking to many of you in the near future.